The average American now spends over 7 hours a day staring at a screen, checks their phone 144 times, and admits they feel anxious when separated from it for more than 10 minutes. Meanwhile, in Japan, a country that invented the flip phone, the emoji, and the mobile internet culture we now live inside, people are quietly walking away from the digital noise with a set of habits so simple they seem almost invisible. I spent 6 weeks living by these habits, tracking every minute of my screen time, and the results shocked me. My daily phone use dropped from over 5 hours to under 90 minutes. My anxiety levels, measured by a wearable device, fell by nearly 40%. My focus returned in a way I hadn't felt since childhood. And I didn't throw my phone in a lake or move to a monastery. I just started living like a modern Japanese minimalist. Today I'm counting down the 20 habits that rewired my brain, starting with the smallest shifts and building to the one practice that changed everything. Some of these are deceptively simple. Others are so genius you'll wonder why no one ever told you. If you feel like your phone owns you, my friend, keep watching. By the end, you'll have a complete blueprint for taking back your life. Number 20. They treat their phone like a kitchen appliance, not a body part. In the West, we've normalized carrying our phones into the bathroom, the bedroom, the dinner table, even into conversations with people we love. We hold them in our hands like an extension of our nervous system. We sleep with them inches from our face. We feel phantom vibrations in our thigh when the phone isn't even in our pocket. The device has literally fused with our sense of self. In Japan, I noticed something radically different. People treat their smartphones more like a toaster or a washing machine. It's a tool that lives in a specific place and gets used for specific tasks, then gets put away. It doesn't travel from room to room like a needy pet. It doesn't sit on the dinner table like an uninvited guest. It doesn't come into the bedroom like a third person in the marriage. When I visited my friend Kenji in Osaka, I noticed his phone lived on a small wooden stand near his front door. It was a simple thing, just a block of light cypress wood with a groove cut into it. Probably cost him 500 yen at a local craft shop. The phone sat there, plugged in, screen down. He checked it when he came home, when he left, and occasionally in between. It wasn't on his body. It wasn't in his pocket during dinner. It wasn't on his nightstand. It had a home, and that home was not his hand. I started doing the same thing. I bought a simple bamboo charging station online. Nothing fancy, just a slotted stand with a hole for the charging cable, and placed it on a shelf by my front door. The first 3 days felt like withdrawal. My hand kept reaching for a phantom device. I'd walk into the kitchen and feel a spike of anxiety because I didn't have my phone. I'd sit on the couch and feel like I was missing a limb. I'd wake up in the morning, and my hand would pat the empty nightstand like a blind man searching for his cane. By day 5, the craving started to fade. By day 10, I felt lighter, like I'd removed a small weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. I noticed my shoulders were lower. I noticed I was looking out the window more. I noticed I was having thoughts again, actual thoughts, not just reactions to content. A 2022 study from the University of Tokyo found that simply increasing the physical distance between a person and their smartphone, even by a few feet, significantly reduced compulsive checking behavior. The mechanism is simple and beautiful in its elegance. Every time you reach for your phone, your brain has to make a conscious decision to walk over to it. You have to stand up, cross the room, and deliberately pick it up. That tiny friction, that small barrier of physical effort, is often enough to break the autopilot loop. The autopilot loop depends on zero friction. It depends on the phone being right there, in your pocket, in your hand, on the arm of the couch. Remove the frictionless access and the compulsion weakens. Try it tonight. Plug your phone in by the front door, not the nightstand. Buy or designate a specific spot that is not your bedroom, not your couch, not anywhere you relax. Give your phone a home outside of your living space. See how different tomorrow morning feels when the first thing your hand touches is not a glass rectangle, but the soft cotton of your sheets, the warm skin of your partner, or just the cool morning air. Number 19. They use their phone with two hands and full attention. This one sounds almost too simple to matter, almost laughably basic, but it changed my relationship with my device more than any app blocker, any screen time limit, any digital wellness feature ever did. In Japan, when someone uses their phone in public, they often hold it with both hands. Thumbs moving deliberately, posture upright. There's a formality to it, a quiet dignity. They're not slouching over a tiny screen with one hand, while half-heartedly stirring coffee with the other. They're not walking down a crowded sidewalk with their neck craned forward, and their thumb flicking upward in that mindless scroll gesture we all know. They're not scrolling while walking, which is actually so frowned upon in Japan that train stations play announcements reminding people not to do it, and some municipalities have even considered ordinances against it because of the collisions and accidents it causes. When you use your phone with one hand, your body sends a powerful signal to your brain. It says this activity is casual, unimportant, something to do in the background of your life. It's the same posture you use to fidget with a pen or twirl a keychain. It's a secondary activity, a filler, a way to occupy the unused bandwidth while your real attention is elsewhere. When you use two hands, you're telling your brain something entirely different. You're telling it this deserves my full attention. This is a primary activity. This is something I am choosing to do with my whole body. That shift alone, just the physical repositioning, makes mindless scrolling feel absurd. You can't mindlessly scroll with two hands. The posture demands intention. It demands presence. I tried it for a week. Every time I picked up my phone, I held it with both hands, sat down if possible, and gave it my full attention. No half-scrolling while walking to the kitchen. No one thumb flicking while watching TV. If I was going to use my phone, I was going to use it, fully and deliberately. What happened was remarkable. My average session length dropped because I got bored faster. When you're giving your phone your full attention, you notice how little there actually is to do on it. You check your messages, you respond, you look up the thing you needed to look up, and then you're done. The infinite scroll doesn't work when you're paying attention to it. It only works when you're half aware, when your thumb is moving on autopilot while your conscious mind is numbed out. I also noticed how little I actually needed to do on my phone. Most of my one-handed use had been unconscious fidgeting. It was digital nail-biting, a nervous habit I developed to fill every micro-gap in my day. The two-handed rule turned my phone back into a device I used intentionally rather than a pacifier I sucked on all day. Try it for just one day. Every time you reach for your phone, bring your second hand up. Hold it like you're holding a book you care about. Sit down if you can. Give it your posture, your attention, your presence. Then see how long the session lasts. Number 18. They practice digital sari, the art of digital tidying. Marie Kondo taught the world to tidy their closets, to hold each sweater and ask if it sparks joy, to fold their socks into neat little soldiers. But in Japan, the concept of sari, meaning organization and order, extends far beyond physical spaces. It applies to the digital world with equal rigor and equal reverence. A cluttered phone, a desktop littered with files, an inbox with thousands of unread emails, these aren't just messy. In Japanese thinking, they're a form of mental noise that drains your energy every time you open a screen. Every unread badge is a tiny demand. Every unused app is a small weight. Every old file is a piece of unfinished business that your brain has to catalog and track, even if you're not consciously thinking about it. I spent a full Saturday doing digital sari. Not a quick tidy, not a half-hearted swipe through my home screen, but a deep, thorough, Marie Kondo-style purge of my entire digital life. I deleted every app I hadn't used in the past month. Not hid in a folder, not moved to a later page, deleted, gone. If I needed it again, I could download it again. But I wouldn't let it squat on my device, taking up visual and cognitive space. I unsubscribed from every newsletter I hadn't opened in 3 months. There were dozens of them. Newsletters I'd signed up for in a moment of ambition. Newsletters from companies I'd bought one thing from 5 years ago. Newsletters I'd never opened once but had been quietly accumulating in my inbox like sediment. Gone. I organized my remaining apps into a single folder on the second page of my home screen, so my main screen was completely blank except for my wallpaper. No icons, no folders, no red badges, just a calm, empty screen. I archived old photos, cleared my downloads folder, deleted old screenshots, and turned off every notification that wasn't from an actual human being trying to reach me. The result felt like cleaning a windshield I didn't know was dirty. Every time I opened my phone, instead of being greeted by a chaos of red badges and endless options, I saw calm. I saw my wallpaper, a simple photo of a moss garden I'd visited in Kyoto. I saw nothing demanding my attention. I saw peace. A 2021 study from Kyoto University's Graduate School of Informatics found that visual clutter on digital interfaces significantly increases cognitive load, essentially taxing your brain's processing power before you've even done anything. Every icon, every badge, every notification is a micro-decision your brain has to process. Should I open this? Should I ignore this? What's in that folder? Did I miss something? Digital Sari removes that tax. Your phone stops feeling like a to-do list and starts feeling like a tool. Try it this weekend. Not tonight, not in 10 minutes, but this weekend when you have a few hours. Delete ruthlessly. Unsubscribe without mercy. Make your home screen a place of peace. Hold each app in your digital hand and ask if it sparks joy. If it doesn't, let it go. The lightness you'll feel is not metaphorical, it's real. Number 17. They keep their phone on silent permanently. In every Japanese cafe, train, and restaurant I visited during my time there, I noticed something remarkable. Almost no phones made noise. No constant pinging, no jangling ringtones, no tinny speakerphone conversations bleeding into the public space. The default setting for a Japanese phone is silent, or what they call manner mode. It's considered a basic courtesy to others, a way of not imposing your digital life on the shared physical space. But the psychological effect on the owner is even more profound than the social benefit. When your phone is always silent, you stop being a Pavlovian dog responding to bells. You check your phone on your schedule, not on the schedule of every app developer who optimized their notification sound to hijack your dopamine system. And make no mistake, those sounds are optimized. They're designed by teams of behavioral psychologists and user experience engineers to be impossible to ignore. The ping of a text message, the tritone of a calendar alert, the swoosh of a social media like. Each one is a carefully crafted trigger, designed to pull your attention away from whatever you're doing and back to the device. When your phone is on silent, those triggers lose their power. They're still happening, the notifications are still arriving, but they're not reaching your ears. They're not interrupting your thoughts. They're not pulling you out of conversations with the people you love. I switched my phone to silent 6 weeks ago and haven't switched it back. The first few days, I checked my phone compulsively, afraid I was missing something. I'd pick it up every 15 minutes, sure that a silent emergency was unfolding. By the end of the first week, I realized I hadn't missed anything that couldn't wait. My friends still reached me. My family still reached me. My boss still reached me. The only thing that changed was that I stopped being interrupted 80 times a day by machines pretending their urgency was mine. By the end of the second week, I felt a deep sense of calm I hadn't experienced in years. My nervous system had been on high alert for so long that I'd forgotten what quiet felt like. The world didn't end. My career didn't collapse. My relationships didn't crumble. The only thing that ended was the constant, low-grade anxiety of being perpetually on call. Try it for 1 week. Switch your phone to silent and leave it there. Not vibrate silent. Vibrate is just a quieter ring. It still pulls your attention. It still hijacks your focus. Silent means silent. Check your phone when you choose to check it, not when it chooses to be checked. Number 16. They use an alarm clock, not a phone alarm. This habit alone cut my morning screen time by 45 minutes. Let me say that again. 45 minutes of screen time, eliminated by a $12 purchase. When your phone is your alarm clock, the very first thing you do every single day, before your feet hit the floor, before you've even fully opened your eyes, before your brain has had a chance to wake up naturally, is touch your phone. Your hand reaches out in the dark, fumbles for the device, and brings it to your face. You squint at the screen, turn off the alarm, and then it happens. The phone is in your hand, the screen is on, the notifications are right there. And once it's in your hand, the gravitational pull is almost impossible to resist. You check the time, then you check a notification, then you're scrolling. And suddenly, 20 minutes have vanished before you've even gotten out of bed. You've flooded your waking brain with cortisol-spiking news headlines, comparison-inducing social media, and stress-inducing work emails before your feet have touched the floor. You've started your day in a state of reaction and anxiety before you've even stood up. In Japan, many households still use a dedicated alarm clock. It sits on the nightstand, does one job, and has no apps, no notifications, no infinite feeds, no ability to pull you into a 45-minute scroll hole. It beeps, you turn it off, and that's the end of the interaction. I bought a simple digital alarm clock for $12 at a drugstore. Left my phone charging by the front door, and transformed my mornings overnight. I woke up, turned off the alarm, and just lay there for a few minutes. I stretched. I looked out the window at the morning light filtering through the trees. I listened to the birds. I thought about my day. I let my brain wake up slowly, naturally, the way brains are supposed to wake up. I didn't flood my mind with information before I'd even rubbed the sleep from my eyes. Japanese sleep researchers at Nihon University have documented that exposure to screen light and information overload within the first 15 minutes of waking significantly elevates stress hormones that can linger for hours. You're essentially injecting cortisol directly into your morning, and then wondering why you feel anxious and scattered by 10 a.m. An alarm clock seems like a trivial purchase. It's not trivial. It's a gatekeeper that protects the most vulnerable and important minutes of your entire day. Those first few minutes of consciousness set the tone for everything that follows. Protect them. Buy the alarm clock. Put your phone somewhere else. Give yourself the gift of a quiet morning. Number 15. They practice Ikanishi Ikazan, one good digital deed per day. This beautiful Japanese concept translates roughly to one good thing a day. It's often applied to acts of kindness, small gestures of generosity, a commitment to doing at least one positive thing before the sun sets. But I discovered a digital version that changed how I use technology entirely. Instead of opening my phone and mindlessly consuming whatever the algorithm fed me, I asked myself one question before unlocking. What is the one good thing I will do with this device right now? Sometimes the answer was sending a thoughtful message to a friend I hadn't spoken to in months. Not a quick emoji reaction, not a lazy thumbs up on their story, but a real message. A few sentences asking how they were, telling them I was thinking about them, referencing something specific from their life. Sometimes the answer was learning one new Japanese phrase, something I could practice throughout the day. Sometimes it was paying a bill that had been nagging at the back of my mind, a small piece of unfinished business that was quietly draining my mental energy. Sometimes it was writing down a memory from the previous day in my notes app, something I wanted to preserve not for social media, but for myself. The point wasn't productivity, the point was intention. The Ikanishi Ikazen framework turned my phone from an entertainment vending machine into a tool for deliberate action. I stopped opening apps just because I was bored. I stopped filling the small gaps in my day with mindless consumption. I started opening my phone with a purpose, completing that purpose, and putting it down. The average American unlocks their phone 96 times a day, with no clear intention behind most of those unlocks. It's just a habit, a reflex, a way to escape from a moment of stillness. The Ikanishi Ikazen mindset cuts through that fog like a beam of light. Before you unlock, ask yourself what the one good thing is. If you can't answer, don't unlock. Put the phone back in your pocket. Sit with the boredom for a moment. Let your mind wander. The good thing will come to you eventually, and when it does, you'll use your phone with purpose instead of using it to escape from purpose. Number 14. They practice digital kuyo, mourning for unused digital selves. This one might sound strange at first, maybe even a little superstitious. But stay with me, because it was one of the most emotionally powerful practices I adopted. In Japan, there's a Shinto and Buddhist tradition called kuyo, memorial services held for objects that have served their purpose. There are kuyo ceremonies for old dolls, for worn-out sewing needles, for broken electronics, for anything that once had utility or meaning and has now reached the end of its useful life. People bring these objects to temples, and priests perform ceremonies to honor their service and release their spirits. The idea is to honor the role something played in your life, and then let it go with gratitude rather than guilt. I applied this to my digital life. I had dozens of abandoned accounts, old social media profiles I never used, created in a moment of curiosity and then forgotten. Apps I downloaded for a single project and never opened again. Subscriptions draining money for services I hadn't touched in years. Old email addresses I'd created as a teenager and abandoned. Forum accounts, gaming profiles, digital storefronts, each one a tiny ghost of a past version of myself. Each one was a tiny weight, a digital ghost that still occupied mental real estate even though I never interacted with it. I held my own digital kuyo. I went through every account I could remember, every old login, every forgotten subscription. For each one I paused. I remembered why I'd created it. I acknowledged the purpose it had served, however small. I said a quiet thank you, and then I deleted it permanently. Old Facebook groups I joined in college and never posted in. Forgotten forum accounts from hobbies I no longer pursued. Productivity apps I'd tried and abandoned, each one a monument to a version of myself that was going to get organized any day now. By the end, I had removed 47 digital accounts from existence. 47 small ghosts released. I can't fully explain the lightness I felt, but it was real. It was physical. It was like I'd been carrying a backpack full of rocks and suddenly set it down. A body of research from the University of Tokyo's Department of Social Psychology suggests that digital clutter creates a phenomenon called ambient guilt, a low-level background stress caused by the accumulation of unfinished digital business. Every abandoned account is a tiny promise you broke to yourself. Every unused subscription is a small financial wound. Every old profile is a version of you that you're still, in some small way, maintaining. Digital kuyo clears that guilt. Honor the tool, acknowledge its service, and then let it go. You don't need to carry your past digital selves into the future. They've served their purpose. Release them with gratitude. Number 13. They eat without screens every single meal. In Japan, eating is a sacred act. It begins with itadakimasu, a word that doesn't have a perfect English equivalent but roughly means, I humbly receive. It's an expression of gratitude for the food, for the farmers who grew it, for the cook who prepared it, for the sun and rain and soil that made it possible. It ends with gachasasama, thanking the meal itself for the nourishment it provided. Between those two words, those two small prayers that bookend every Japanese meal, there are no phones. No tablets propped up against the salt shaker. No laptops open next to the rice bowl. No mindless scrolling while shoveling food into your mouth. Just food and attention. I started doing this alone in my apartment, eating every meal without any screen, and it was deeply uncomfortable at first. I realized I hadn't eaten a meal without some form of digital distraction in years. Not since I was a child, probably. Every breakfast had been accompanied by a news feed. Every lunch had been paired with a YouTube video. Every dinner had been eaten in front of a streaming show. Food was something I did while consuming content, not something I did while experiencing my own life. Without a screen, I had to sit with my own thoughts. I had to taste my food. I had to notice the texture of the rice, the saltiness of the miso, the crunch of the vegetable. I had to notice when I was full. The Japanese concept of hara-hachibu, eating until you're 80% full, became possible because I was actually paying attention to my body's signals instead of outsourcing my attention to a YouTube video. When you're watching a screen while eating, you don't notice the subtle signals of satiety. You just keep eating until the food is gone or the video is over. You're disconnected from your own body's wisdom. A study from the National Institute of Health and Nutrition in Tokyo found that distracted eating significantly impairs the body's ability to register satiety signals, leading to overconsumption. But the bigger benefit wasn't physical. It was mental. Meals became a genuine break, a reset point in the day, a small meditation. I'd sit down, say a quiet itadakimasu to myself and eat, just eat. For 10 or 15 minutes the world stopped. No notifications, no headlines, no algorithms. Just me and my food, and the quiet rhythm of nourishment. Try it for just one meal tomorrow. No phone, no laptop, no TV, just you and your food. Notice how strange it feels at first, how your hand instinctively reaches for the device that isn't there. Then notice how good it feels. Notice the flavors you've been missing. Notice the quiet. Notice how full you feel when you actually pay attention. Number 12. They practice in imuri at work, micronaps instead of micro-scrolls. Imuri is the Japanese practice of dozing off in public, at work, on the train, in meetings. It's not seen as laziness. It's seen as evidence of hard work, someone who's tired from dedication. Someone who's been giving so much that their body simply needs a moment to recover. You'll see it everywhere in Japan. A businessman in a suit, head tilted back on the subway, eyes closed. A student at a library desk, arms folded, taking 10 minutes of rest. An office worker at their desk, head nodding for a few minutes before snapping back to attention. It's accepted, even respected. But here's what I noticed. When a Japanese person feels the afternoon energy dip that hits all humans around 2 p.m., that circadian trough that makes your eyelids heavy and your focus blur, they often close their eyes for 5 minutes. They practice in imuri. What do we do in the West? We reach for our phones, we scroll. We tell ourselves we're taking a break, that we're resting, that we're just checking in for a minute. But scrolling is not rest. It's input, it's cognitive load. It's a dopamine drip that leaves you more drained than before. Your brain is not resting when you scroll. It's processing information. It's making micro-decisions. It's comparing, judging, reacting. You're not taking a break. You're just switching from one form of work to another. I started replacing my afternoon scroll sessions with genuine micronaps. I set a timer for 8 minutes, put my phone in another room, closed my eyes and just rested. I didn't always fall asleep, but that wasn't the point. The point was giving my brain actual downtime instead of fake downtime. The point was closing my eyes and letting my mind drift without input. The difference in my afternoon energy was dramatic. I went from hitting a wall at 2 p.m. and being useless until 4 p.m. to feeling a gentle dip and then a genuine renewal. A 2023 study from the University of Tsukuba's International Institute for Integrative Sleep Medicine confirmed that even a 10-minute nap significantly outperforms screen-based breaks in restoring cognitive performance and mood. The nap actually restores you. The scroll depletes you further while tricking you into thinking you're resting. Your afternoon scroll isn't rest. It's just more work your brain has to process. It's like telling a marathon runner to take a break by jogging in place. Try an Imuri instead. Even 5 minutes of eyes closed, phone-free rest will change the entire trajectory of your afternoon. Close your office door or find a quiet corner. Set a timer so you don't worry about oversleeping. Close your eyes, breathe, let your mind go wherever it wants to go. When the timer goes off, open your eyes and notice how different you feel. Notice the clarity, notice the calm. That's what real rest feels like. Number 11. They use paper for thinking, screens for executing. In Japanese offices and homes, you still see an enormous amount of paper. Notebooks, planners, sticky notes, physical calendars, memos written by hand and passed between colleagues. This isn't because Japan is technologically behind, far from it. Japan is one of the most technologically advanced nations on Earth. It's because they understand a truth that cognitive science is just now catching up to. The brain processes information differently when you write it by hand. Ideas form more slowly, more deeply, more creatively. The physical act of moving a pen across paper engages neural pathways that typing simply doesn't activate. Screens are incredible for execution, for sending the email, for looking up the fact, for organizing the spreadsheet, for getting things done. But for thinking, for planning, for dreaming, for generating new ideas, paper wins every time. I bought a simple notebook, nothing fancy, just a plain black moleskin-style journal, and started doing all my morning planning on paper. I wrote my to-do list by hand, feeling the pen move across the page. I journaled for 5 minutes, letting my thoughts spill out in messy handwriting. I sketched out ideas, drew arrows between concepts, circled things, crossed things out. The physicality of it changed how I thought. Then, after my thinking was done, I moved to my computer to execute. The separation was powerful. My screen time dropped because I wasn't using my computer as a thinking tool anymore. I was using it as an execution tool, and my thinking got clearer. I wasn't staring at a blank screen with a blinking cursor, waiting for inspiration. I was moving my hand across a page, and the ideas just came. Researchers at the University of Tokyo's Laboratory for Cognitive Science have demonstrated that handwriting activates broader neural networks than typing, particularly in regions associated with memory and idea generation. When you type, you're essentially transcribing. When you write by hand, you're processing, synthesizing, creating. Get a notebook. Any notebook. Use it for thinking. Let your screens be for doing. Spend 10 minutes tomorrow morning writing by hand before you open a single app. See what happens to your ideas. Number 10. They practice digital misogi, a periodic deep clean of the mind. Misogi is a Shinto purification ritual, often involving standing under a waterfall or bathing in a cold river to cleanse the spirit. It's intense, it's temporary, and it's transformative. Practitioners describe coming out of the water feeling reborn, stripped of accumulated spiritual grime, clear-eyed and light. I created a digital version. Once a month, I do a 24-hour digital misogi. No screens at all except for emergency calls. No phone, no laptop, no TV, no tablet. Just 24 hours of analog living. The first time I tried this, I lasted until 11 a.m. Before I felt like my skin was crawling. I was restless, irritable, anxious. My hand kept reaching for a phone that wasn't there. My brain kept trying to open apps that didn't exist. I paced around my apartment feeling like I was going through withdrawal, which of course I was. By 3 p.m. something shifted. I had cleaned my entire apartment, and I mean deep cleaned. The kind of cleaning you only do when you're avoiding something. I had called my mother for the first time in weeks and had an actual conversation, not a rushed check-in while scrolling. I had read 80 pages of a book, actually absorbed them, remembered them. By 8 p.m., I felt a stillness I hadn't experienced since I was a teenager on a camping trip with no cell service. The silence wasn't oppressive anymore. It was spacious. It was peaceful. By the next morning, I woke up feeling like my brain had been power washed. The colors seemed brighter, my thoughts seemed clearer. I felt connected to myself in a way I hadn't felt in years. The monthly digital misogi resets my tolerance. It reminds me that the anxiety I feel when separated from my phone is not a natural state. It's a withdrawal symptom. And withdrawal symptoms fade. They always fade. The first few hours are hard, but then your brain remembers how to be alone with itself. It remembers how to generate its own thoughts, its own entertainment, its own peace. If 24 hours sounds impossible, start with 4 hours. Start with a Sunday morning. Put your phone in a drawer, turn off your computer and just be. The point isn't deprivation. The point is remembering who you are when the noise stops. You're still there. You've been there the whole time, buried under the notifications. Dig yourself out, even if just for a few hours. You'll be shocked at what you find. Number 9. They keep their phone grayscale after sunset. This is one of those habits that sounds like a gimmick until you try it. It sounds like a life hack from a productivity blog. The kind of thing you read about and think sure, maybe, and then never actually implement. But I'm telling you, it works in a way that feels almost unfair. In Japan, many of the people I met had their phones set to automatically switch to grayscale mode in the evening. I noticed it when I glanced at a friend's screen and saw it was entirely black and white. When I asked her about it, she shrugged and said she'd been doing it for years. That it helped her sleep, that the colors felt aggressive at night. The color drains from the screen, and suddenly, the apps that were designed by teams of psychologists to hold your attention lose their power. Instagram without color is just a grid of gray shapes. It's not beautiful. It's not engaging. It's just information, and most of it isn't very interesting information. YouTube thumbnails look like photocopies. The bright red notification badges that trigger your dopamine system become muted gray circles. Your phone becomes boring, and boredom is the enemy of compulsive use. I set my phone to grayscale from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The first night I picked up my phone, looked at the gray screen and put it down within seconds. There was nothing pulling me in. The dopamine loop was broken. The colors that had been carefully selected by designers to capture and hold my attention were gone. And without them, the apps were just software. Just tools, just things I didn't need to be looking at. Tristan Harris, a former Google design ethicist, has spoken extensively about how color is one of the primary tools tech companies use to hijack attention. Red badges trigger urgency. Blue notification dots trigger curiosity. Vibrant images trigger desire. Removing color is like removing the sugar from a dessert. The calories are still there, but the craving evaporates. You don't want it anymore. Your brain looks at the gray screen and says, "There's nothing here for me," and moves on. Try grayscale for just one evening. Most phones have an accessibility setting that lets you toggle it on with a triple click of the side button. Set it up, turn it on at 7 p.m., and watch what happens. You'll be shocked at how quickly your phone goes from irresistible to irrelevant. You'll pick it up, look at it, and put it down without even thinking about it. The spell will be broken. Number 8. They practice kanketsu, the beauty of brevity in digital communication. Japanese communication values kanketsu, brevity, and simplicity. Emails are short. Text messages are concise. There's no expectation of instant, lengthy replies. There's no culture of long, rambling voice notes that demand 20 minutes of someone's attention. There's no pressure to write a paragraph when a sentence will do. This norm reduces the cognitive burden of digital communication enormously. In the West, we've created a culture where every text seems to demand an immediate response, where email threads spiral into novels, where group chats become part-time jobs that you can never clock out of. We've built a communication environment that treats every message as urgent and every response as mandatory. The result is a constant, low-grade stress that follows us everywhere. I adopted kanketsu in my digital life. I kept messages short. Not rude, not cold, just concise. I stopped feeling obligated to reply instantly. I turned off read receipts so no one knew when I'd seen their message. I gave myself permission to respond when I had the mental energy, not when the notification arrived. I treated my attention as something valuable that I could choose to give, not something that could be demanded by anyone with my phone number. The result was that digital communication stopped feeling like a burden. It became a tool again. I responded to messages when I was ready to respond, and my responses were better for it. They were thoughtful instead of rushed. They were present instead of distracted. A 2022 study from Osaka University's Department of Social Psychology found that perceived obligation to respond quickly to digital messages is one of the strongest predictors of smartphone-related stress. It's not the messages themselves that stress us out. It's the feeling that we owe an immediate response to everyone who reaches out. Kanketsu isn't rudeness. It's respect. Respect for your own attention and respect for the recipient's time. A short, thoughtful message sent when you're ready is worth more than a rushed, anxious reply sent from a stoplight. Give yourself permission to be brief. Give yourself permission to wait. Your relationships won't suffer. They'll improve because the communication you do send will be intentional instead of reactive. Number 7. They have a dedicated digital yorishiro, a physical object that replaces the phone. In Shinto, a yorishiro is a physical object that attracts spirits, a place for the sacred to reside. It might be a rock, a tree, a rope tied around an ancient stone. It's an object that draws the divine into the physical world, a focal point for something larger than yourself. I learned to create a digital yorishiro, a physical object that my hand reaches for instead of my phone. For me, it was a small wooden fidget toy I bought at a temple market in Kyoto. It's about the size of a walnut, carved from a single piece of dark hinoki wood, smooth from years of handling by the craftsman who made it. It fits in my palm perfectly, has a silky texture that's cool to the touch, and gives my hands something to do during the hundreds of micro moments each day when I would normally reach for my phone. Waiting for coffee to brew. Sitting at a red light, standing in an elevator, waiting for a file to download. These moments are the breeding ground for compulsive phone use. Your hand reaches for the device not because you need information, not because someone is trying to reach you, but because your hands are idle and your brain wants stimulation. The phone fills the gap. It fills every gap. It leaves no space unfilled. A yorishiro satisfies that physical need without opening the digital floodgates. I keep my wooden toy in my pocket now. Every time my hand reaches for my phone out of habit, it finds the toy instead. I hold it, feel its smooth surface, trace the grain of the wood with my thumb, take a breath, and the craving passes. The urge was never really about the phone. It was about the need for tactile stimulation, for something to do with my hands. The Yorishiro meets that need without stealing my attention. Find your own Yorishiro. A smooth stone from a beach you love, a keychain with an interesting texture, a small carved object that feels good in your palm, a coin with some weight to it. Give your hands something to hold that doesn't hold you hostage, something that grounds you in the physical world instead of pulling you into the digital one. Number 6. They practice mono-no-aware online, accepting the impermanence of digital content. Mono-no-aware is the Japanese aesthetic of appreciating the bittersweet beauty of impermanence. It's the feeling you get watching cherry blossoms fall, knowing they're beautiful precisely because they won't last. It's the gentle sadness of a sunset, the poignancy of a moment that will never come again. Mono-no-aware says that things are precious because they pass, not in spite of it. In the digital world, we've created the opposite. Everything is permanent. Every post, every photo, every comment saved forever. Stored on servers in climate-controlled bunkers, ready to be scrutinized, shared, and judged for eternity. Nothing fades, nothing is forgotten, nothing is allowed to be just a moment. This permanence creates a low-level anxiety that most of us don't even notice anymore. We curate our digital selves like museum exhibits that will never close. We worry about how a post will look in 5 years. We agonize over photos, selecting the one that represents us best, the one that will stand the test of time. We've become archivists of our own lives, more concerned with documenting the moment than living it. I started practicing mono-no-aware online. I deleted old posts, hundreds of them, letting them go like fallen petals. I let conversations expire naturally, instead of keeping them alive forever. I stopped feeling like I needed to document everything. I accepted that the beautiful moment I experienced was enough, even if no one else ever saw it. I stopped taking photos of my food and just ate it. I stopped filming concerts and just listened. I stopped treating my life like content and started treating it like a life. The relief was enormous. I hadn't realized how much of my mental energy was going into being my own archivist, my own publicist, my own museum curator. A research team at Keio University has studied the psychological effects of constant digital documentation and found that it significantly reduces the ability to be present in the moment. The act of recording distances you from the experience. You're not in the concert, you're behind a screen filming the concert. You're not tasting the meal, you're arranging the plate for a photo. Mono-no-aware says let it go. The moment is beautiful because it passes. You don't need to trap it in a digital jar. Let it live, let it fade, let it become a memory instead of a file. The memories will be richer because you were actually there for them. Number 5. They use a dumb phone for certain parts of the day. This habit felt extreme when I first considered it, almost Luddite. Like something a tech-addicted executive would do at a digital detox retreat in the desert. But it turned out to be one of the most liberating changes I made. In Japan, despite being a tech-forward nation, dumb phones, simple flip phones that do calls and texts and nothing else, still have a significant market share. They're called Garakai, a portmanteau of Galapagos and Keitai, mobile phone, referencing the idea that they evolved in isolation like the unique species on the Galapagos Islands. Many people carry one as a secondary device or use one exclusively. You'll see them on the subway, sleek little flip phones with physical buttons, being used by people of all ages. I bought a basic flip phone for $30 online and started using it during my most vulnerable hours. From 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., my smartphone stayed off and in a drawer. The flip phone handled any actual emergencies. It could make calls and receive texts. That's it. No apps, no browser, no color screen. No possibility of scrolling. The first evening, I felt phantom vibrations in my pocket for hours. My brain was so accustomed to the constant drip of digital stimulation that it was manufacturing fake notifications. By the third evening, I was reading books again. Actual books made of paper that I held in my hands and turned the pages of. By the second week, I was having long conversations with my partner without either of us glancing at a screen. We'd sit on the couch and talk, really talk for an hour or more, and neither of us reached for a device. The dumb phone isn't a permanent solution for everyone, but as a training tool, it's unmatched. It proves to your brain that the world doesn't end when the smartphone goes away. It rebuilds the neural pathways for boredom, for presence, for analog pleasure. It reminds you that you existed before the smartphone, and you can exist without it. If you can't buy a dumb phone, use your smartphone's focus mode to create a dumb phone version that only allows calls and texts. Strip it down to the bare essentials. The key is creating a period each day when the internet simply doesn't exist for you. A period when you are unreachable by algorithm, by notification, by the endless scroll. A period when you are just a person in a room, not a user on a platform. Number 4. They practice Shinrin-yoku without a camera. Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, is one of Japan's most famous wellness exports. The practice of walking slowly through a forest, breathing deeply, engaging all 5 senses. It was developed in the 1980s by the Japanese Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries as a public health practice, and it's been proven in dozens of studies to lower cortisol, reduce blood pressure, improve mood, and boost immune function. The forest literally heals you. The phytoncides released by trees have measurable effects on human physiology. But here's the Western corruption. We go into nature and we bring our phones. We take photos for Instagram. We check our step count. We listen to podcasts. We turn a sensory experience into another screen-mediated activity. We go into the forest to escape our screens, and then we bring our screens into the forest. True Shinrin-yoku is screen-free. You leave your phone in the car or at home. You walk into the tree with nothing but your senses. No camera, no earbuds, no step tracker, no digital companion. Just you and the forest. I started doing this every Sunday morning. A 90-minute walk in a nearby state park. No phone, no camera, no earbuds. The first 20 minutes were uncomfortable. My brain kept reaching for stimulation, kept wanting to document something, kept feeling like I should be doing something productive. By 40 minutes, something shifted. I started noticing sounds I'd never heard. Bird calls I couldn't identify, wind moving through different types of leaves. The creak of branches, the rustle of small animals in the underbrush. By 60 minutes, I felt like I'd taken a sedative. My shoulders had dropped, my jaw had unclenched, my thoughts had slowed from a frantic cascade to a gentle stream. A study from Chiba University's Center for Environment, Health and Field Sciences found that the stress-reducing effects of forest bathing are significantly diminished when participants use electronic devices during the experience. The forest heals, but only if you let it. Only if you give it your full attention. Only if you stop trying to capture it and start trying to experience it. Leave the phone behind. Let nature do its work on a brain that isn't dividing its attention between the trees and the timeline. The trees have been here for millions of years. They know what they're doing. Trust them. Number 3. They have a strict digital jenkin, a boundary between the digital and physical worlds. The jenkin is the entryway of a Japanese home. The place where you remove your shoes before stepping onto the clean floor inside. It's a physical boundary between the dirty outside world and the clean sanctuary of home. The street is dusty, full of germs and grime and the residue of the city. The home is clean, a place of rest and renewal. The jenkin is the transition zone, the sacred threshold where you leave the outside world behind. I created a digital Jenkin. Every evening when I came home, I placed my phone in a small basket by the door, just like removing my shoes. The phone didn't come into my living space. It didn't come into my bedroom. It didn't come to the dinner table. It didn't sit on the arm of the couch while I tried to relax. It stayed in the digital Jenkin, a boundary I would not cross. The psychological effect was profound. My home became a sanctuary again. When I was home, I was home. I wasn't half home and half scrolling through other people's lives. I wasn't physically present but mentally absent, my body on the couch while my attention was scattered across a dozen apps. The digital Jenkin created a hard separation between the noisy outside world and my private space. If someone needed me urgently, they could call, and I'd hear the phone from the basket. But the endless scroll, the notifications, the algorithmic pulls, they all stopped at the door. They were not welcome inside. A body of research from the University of Tokyo's Housing and Urban Planning Department has explored how physical boundaries in the home affect psychological well-being. The Jenkin is not just a practical feature. It's a psychological one. It tells your brain that you have entered a different space, a space with different rules, a space of rest. The digital Jenkin extends that ancient wisdom to our modern devices. Your home should be a place where your attention belongs to you and the people you love, not to corporations' engagement metrics. Create your digital Jenkin. Find a basket, a box, a drawer by the door. Place your phone there the moment you walk in. Leave the digital street outside. Let your home be clean. Number 2. They practice Ma, the intentional pause between stimulus and response. Ma is a Japanese concept that doesn't translate neatly into English. It's the space between things, the pause between notes in music, the silence between words in a conversation, the empty space in a painting that gives the subject meaning. Ma is not nothing. It's a presence, a charged emptiness, a deliberate interval that allows what comes before and after to be fully experienced. In traditional Japanese music, the silence between notes is as important as the notes themselves. In Japanese architecture, the empty space is as carefully designed as the structure. Ma is the breath that gives life to the song. In digital life, Ma is what we've eliminated. There is no pause between notification and response. There is no gap between impulse and action. The urge to check your phone arises, and your hand moves before your conscious mind even registers the decision. We have collapsed the space between stimulus and response to zero. I started practicing digital Ma. When I felt the urge to check my phone, I paused. Just 3 seconds, 3 full breaths. I breathed in, I breathed out, and I asked myself what I was actually looking for. Most of the time, the answer was nothing. I was just uncomfortable with a moment of stillness. I was just trying to fill a gap that didn't need to be filled. The pause was enough to break the loop. 3 seconds of Ma between impulse and action rewired my brain over time. The urge would arise, I would pause, I would breathe, and the urge would pass. It didn't need to be fought, it just needed to be observed. It's a form of meditation applied to technology. Viktor Frankl famously wrote that between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose. In that space is our freedom. Digital Ma is that space. It's the 3 seconds that separate compulsion from choice. It's the tiny gap where your humanity reasserts itself over the algorithm. Try it right now. The next time you feel the urge to pick up your phone, pause for 3 breaths. Notice the urge, don't fight it, don't judge it. Just observe it, like you'd observe a cloud passing across the sky. Then decide consciously whether to pick up the phone or not. That pause is freedom. That pause is Ma, and in that pause you might just find yourself again. Number 1. They practice Ikigo Iki, treating every digital interaction as a once-in-a-lifetime encounter. Ikigo Iki is a Japanese phrase that means one time, one meeting. It comes from the tea ceremony, Chado, the way of tea. The tea master treats each guest as if this meeting is the only one that will ever occur. The tea is prepared with full attention, full presence, full care. Every gesture is deliberate, every moment is honored. Because this moment, this exact configuration of people and light and season and conversation, will never happen again. It's a once-in-a-lifetime encounter, and it deserves to be treated as such. I applied this to my digital life, and it transformed everything. Instead of mindlessly scrolling through dozens of posts, I treated each piece of content I consumed as a singular encounter. If I was going to watch a video, I watched it fully, with attention, as if it were a live performance that would never be repeated. I didn't have another tab open. I didn't have my phone in my hand. I gave the video the same attention I would give a friend speaking to me across a table. If I was going to read an article, I read it slowly, thoughtfully, not skimming while already reaching for the next dopamine hit. I sat with the ideas, I let them settle, I thought about them afterward. If I was going to message a friend, I gave that message my full presence. Not half my attention, while 3 other conversations scrolled past. I thought about what I wanted to say. I wrote with care. I treated the exchange as a real conversation, not a transaction. The quantity of my digital consumption plummeted, but the quality soared. I remembered what I read. I felt connected to the people I spoke with. I stopped consuming content like a factory farm animal at a feed trough and started experiencing it like a guest at a tea ceremony. A 2023 study from Kyoto University's Department of Cultural Psychology found that the ikigo-iki mindset significantly increases satisfaction and memory retention from experiences, while simultaneously reducing the compulsive urge to seek more experiences. When each encounter matters, you need fewer of them. When you're fully present for one video, you don't need 10. When you're fully present for one conversation, you don't need a dozen. The craving for more is replaced by the satisfaction of enough. Ikigo-iki is the opposite of everything the attention economy wants from you. The algorithm wants you to scroll faster, consume more, never stop, never be satisfied, always reaching for the next thing. Ikigo-iki says slow down. This moment, this article, this conversation, this video, it's the only one. Treat it that way. Give it your full attention. Honor it with your presence. And when it's done, let it go. There's no need to chase the next one. The next one will come, and it will be its own unique encounter, deserving of its own full attention. But for now, this is enough. You are enough. The phone can wait. The world can wait. This moment right now is the only one you're guaranteed. Ikigo-iki. One time, one meeting. Don't waste it staring at a screen.